Ofsted Outstanding Primary Academy, based in Bolton. We've got a nursery class on site. We like to think we have a fantastic senior team that put the children at the forefront of everything, and we always try to strive for outstanding in everything we do. And our head teacher had a vision, our founder, quite a few years ago, probably more than the 16, but put it into place about 16 years ago, about fulfilling further needs rather than just the education for the children, and providing help for the community to get back to work, and a really high quality wraparound care for the children. And that started 16 years ago and is still growing today. And the reason it's growing is because it's continuing to be based on the needs of the children and the surrounding area. So as well as our primary academy, we also have a separate childcare charity. The people that run that charity are the same senior team within the academy, so we have continuity there. And the reason we've gone for charity status for our childcare organisation is we felt that reflected everything about us. It's not about the money. The money has to be sustainable, but it's about the care and the quality for the children. We've developed something within our charity called a hardship fund, and the hardship fund is if you have children with perhaps additional needs that can't be met by the very limited budget within the local authority, then we can help source within that fund one-to-one care for those children. Or if you have a parent that's fallen into hardship or very ill health, we'll help them along with the childcare needs until they're back to full health. You also get some other benefits in terms of tax, where you don't pay tax on your profits. It's always a handy one. And it also allows more doors to be open in terms of the grants that you can bid for. So when we first started this, it was in 1999 when Jack decided that our out-of-school club, which was run by a separate provider, wasn't really good enough for our children, and he thought he could do better. Over the years he's proved right, and that's now Ofsted Outstanding. And a lot of other schools within our area approached Jack and decided they liked what we were doing, and could we do the same thing for them on their site. So we now run 7 out-of-school clubs in total. Some we cater directly for the school, the site we're on, and others we do a mixture of walking bus, so we may cater for more, say three schools within one out-of-school club. We also set up our first nursery, our first day nursery, actually on the site, the footprint of our academy. And the reason we set that up is we wanted to do more of a wraparound care, starting from 7:30 in the morning right through to 6, and also parental choice. Some people like to be in a school setting, some people like to be in a private setting, some people like to mix it up a bit and spend so many sessions in one, so many sessions in the other. So again, we opened that in 2003, and we now have 6 nurseries within Wigan, Lee and Bolton. All of our venues that are fully established are Ofsted Outstanding, and all of our newer ones are good, working towards outstanding. So we always look about the quality of care, and I think that's why we attracted a lot of schools, because of our reputation basically. And we were the first childminder agency in the country as well. Again, it's all about parental preference, and the childminder agency is also a good way of maybe starting with a school that can't perhaps have the demand to start an out-of-school club from day one. You may start with some childminders and then grow up the business and then move into an on-site provision. So again, there's all different choices that we can now provide for our parents. These are some of the partners that we have and we recommend. Local authority. There are quite a few grants floating about at the moment for helping provisions for places for 2-year-old children. And I know of late, of in the past, the sustainability pots and things like that have run dry. So there is a little bit more money flowing through at the moment for the 2-year-old provision. They provide early year support for new startups and peer mentoring for those who are already established and just need further guidance. They provide specialist 2-year-old training. They can help you with your sufficiency. As I say, sustainability funding tends to be a bit low these days, but they will help you provide sustainability plans. And they facilitate links with DFE 2-year-old champions in school. Schools, they provide greater educational expertise, and they really understand what they need. When you have a conversation with them, it's quite clear what they need in terms of school ready. And I think that's a phrase that's been used a lot in the government lately as well, school readiness. They already have your parents, your community and your children that you'd like to have access to. And some either have land available that you could build upon, or classrooms available for providing the childcare. PVIs have a fantastic understanding of children right from birth to 5 or 11 if you're involved in the out of school club. I think sometimes there's a little bit of snobbery, sometimes from schools, sorry Jack, about PVIs and the quality they provide, but we have always had the approach that outstanding and good is outstanding and good no matter what type of provision that you work in. And I think sometimes some of the schools that are looking about bringing 2-year-olds into school don't quite understand at the start the difference between the early 2s and the rising 3s. I'm seeing some nods in the audience, and it is a range of a difference, you know, it's cuddles, nappies, things like that. And I think that's something really that you as PVIs can really bring to the table. And flexibility. A lot of the PVIs are there for the working parents that need the 7:30 till 6, 52 weeks of the year provision. And that's something that we're really, I think, very good at, is providing the flexibility that the parents need. Other agencies that are great for partnerships are obviously the NDNA. Other charities such as Family Action. I don't know if any of you have come across Family Action. They are great for helping, providing partnerships with the schools and private providers for out-of-school care and care within the school system. Teaching schools were one of those as well. I don't think I mentioned that at the beginning. And teaching schools are great for providing training, continuous professional development and other courses such as sustainability. So one thing that we've learned is to really think about what you need to make a partnership successful. And one of the first things for us is know your market. You've really got to understand what the people in your area need, and that includes the schools within your area, the parents and the children. One way we find this out is questionnaires. We ask any schools that we're thinking of working with, can they send out our questionnaire, normally with joint-headed logos on, so the parents do realise that this is something done in partnership with the schools, or if we're setting up a nursery, we'll set it out through our own. But they're great because they've got the school bags and they can put the leaflets in the school bags, and that's quite useful. Those questionnaires, you know, make sure you're asking the right questions. What do they need? What kind of hours are they looking at? If they don't need it, what are they currently using? What do they like about the service they have? What do they not like? And you get a really good picture for the area quite quickly. And these questionnaires, we would say to do them annually, because once you're actually in the setting and once you're running something, it's quite good to see if those needs have changed throughout time, and then you can start tailoring more to the needs of the parents. Compare the competition. So you've understood what's needed in the market. So the next thing is what else is out there in your area. We always do an Ofsted search by mileage from our location to find out who the competitors are. Then we ring round, pretend to be interested, find out how much they charge. I've known before now, we've gone in and visited my daughter on my hip. We had a good look round, so really get to know what your competition are doing and why you think you can provide a better, and then you'll know why you can provide a better service for your parents, and if you're looking at a school, what you can do better than somebody else, basically. You need to understand about your business. You know, what is unique about you. We like to think about our quality and reputation, so we always regularly review our CEFs, pick up any Ofsted points to make sure we're addressing them. We're quite lucky, we've got a large team, so we have area nursery managers that almost do internal audits throughout our venues as well, but I know that the local authority can provide a similar service. You need to understand what marketing works. Word of mouth is normally the best one within nurseries and within schools, actually. So again, that links back to your quality and your reputation. We find leafleting working really well, and then if you're looking at working with schools, every parent evening, get yourself a stall, get involved in all the fundraising activities. You know, just try and get inside each school. When we provide provisions for each of the schools, we're not like a McDonald's. We haven't got the same thing wherever we go. We try to recreate the school setting within our out-of-school care environment. So a lot of the parents perhaps don't even know it's us, really. The structure of your organisation and your legal agreements I'll come back to, because they are really, really important. The hours you work, you might want to start quite simple. and just do a 1 hour session in the morning, say start from 7:30 till 8:45, and then you go from 3:15 till 6, keep it simple, and then as you start getting bigger and you have more flexibility, you can then perhaps do one starting at 8 o'clock, 8:30. We tend to find for the breakfast club, people like that choice and finishing at 4:30, 5:30 and 6, and you'll tend to get more parents doing that because they have different pick-up points. Get your fees right. First of all, you'll know what the competitors are charging because you've rung round, so make sure that you remain competitive. Staffing, again, I'll talk about in a little minute. Your overheads, such as your rent, tends to be your next biggest cost, really, after your staffing. So keep an eye on that. And cash flow and debt, again, I'll talk about that, because fees are one thing, but if you don't get the physical cash coming in, you can't spend going out. So structure, now we tend to have a mixture for our structure. Our charity runs our out-of-school clubs and our nurseries for our school, but we have a number of partnerships with other schools as well. Now you can decide to run something, and I suppose this is more for the schools really, to run in-house, or they can look at contracting out to private providers, or even doing a mixture where they do their own breakfast club, which we've got in one of our provisions. They do their own breakfast club, we run the after-school club, and then for our holiday club, we actually merge a number of our clubs together and run that for them. Some schools can look at running a cluster-based approach to childcare, so they'll all join together. And again, your structure, you can be just a committee or a limited company or charitable status. Again, there's advantages and disadvantages of each. The further down the chain you go towards charity, there is slightly more reporting to do, but you have access to more grants. Limited company gives you legal protection, limited liability. But obviously the easiest to physically run would be your committee. And then you've got to decide about the age of the children. Do you go from birth? Do you go from 2? You know, what age? And once you know that, again, it's not cast in stone. Re-review it every now and again and think whether you want to change anything. So I know a lot of schools may first of all look at just running, for example, an after-school club. As it's growing, they might think they'll bring in a breakfast, or they might be really brave and do the whole thing, including out-of-school club, just to get the parents in. Because if you're just doing an after-school club within a school setting, parents need extra help in the holidays. So if they're using childminders or other providers, you may lose them in the afternoons. So you might want to take a big breath, make a bit of a loss on the holiday clubs, and just run it from day one, so you're capturing all of those children early to stop them going elsewhere, basically. We do not provide anything with any of our partners without a proper legal agreement, and some of them may say, well, we have this one from the local authority and we have to use it, and it's this thick and it covers everybody. But what that tends to do is just a normal rental agreement. What it doesn't do is protect you, your business, and your business name and your staff. And that's what I call in terms of the goodwill. We try to look and keep an eye on the future. So you may spend a few years, you know, while you build up the business, making a bit of a loss. And as soon as they see the kids coming through the door, they think, right, I'll triple the rent. Great little money maker here. So you need to be looking about how you can limit, or what formula they're going to use for the rental increase. Protecting your goodwill, so they need to, within your agreement, you know, so you need to say 3 months notice or 6 months notice. They can't trade on your name, they can't use your policies and procedures, they can't poach your staff. All of these things are really, really important, and I would recommend you get some legal advice to draft one up. Once you spend that money, it doesn't take that long to adapt it for working with other venues. Staff are your largest cost within any organisation, and typically should be around about 60 to 65% of your fees. So for every pound you get in, you shouldn't be spending more than about 65p going out on wages. And when you're looking at creating partnerships, TUPE is very important. And I know enough about TUPE to know that I don't know enough about TUPE. And if there's ever a situation where you're taking over another venue and there are staff involved, basically their current terms and conditions are protected when they transfer over to you. So you might have only had them for a day, but if they've been working for 20 years and you need to make them redundant, you have to incur the 20 years worth of redundancy costs, for example. Where some schools come undone is they start running an out-of-school club and they think, right, well, I've got this TA, I've got this other person, and they recreate the terms and conditions from the school within their private nursery or within their out-of-school club. And then they find out that it's not sustainable because they can't compete with the PVIs that have a different staffing structure. That, you know, I don't know many PVIs that have occupational sick pay or occupational maternity pay. So when they then decide that they can't afford to run it themselves and they look to a private provider, you inherit these staff. Now you can move away from that and there's something called economic viability, where you have to do a consultant process where you say that you just cannot sustain that, and then you work with them and again take legal advice to restructure. So there is a way out, but it's not for the faint-hearted. Make sure that you are paying reasonable terms and conditions for your staff, because you want to recruit the best people. So we always keep an eye on the job market to see what other people in the area are being paid. We make sure we get the staff ratios right, because particularly with the younger children, you don't need a room full of qualified teachers. You need a nice mixture of level 3s, level 2s, mod naps. Mod naps are a great resource to use. You get fresh blood in. There's a nice chain of fresh ideas, and you know, there's different people for different things. You don't need a qualified teacher to change a nappy or to give a cuddle. You just need somebody who's quite committed. Sickness and holiday cover. So when you're looking at running a venue and you think, right, I only need 2 members of staff, you've got to remember that one of them might fall ill, one of them may go on holidays. We're quite lucky now. We've got, because of our economies of scale really, we don't use any supply staff or anything like that. We still cover within our organisation. But you need to think about what's going to happen if you get a phone call at 7 in the morning saying that somebody's not going to turn up at 7:30. And as I say, volunteers and apprenticeships are a great idea, particularly if you're doing walking buses for the volunteers. They're normally quite useful. And make sure that once you've got those staff that they remain really good and committed and knowledgeable by ensuring that the training is there for them. As I say, it doesn't matter how busy your club is. If the cash doesn't come in, you can't pay your wages. So debt matters. Make sure you've got a really robust way of recording all your fees daily. We have key performance indicators because we now have a number of venues, and each week I track the occupancy per day. I look at the staff ratios to the number of children per day, and I also have a look at the debt balance per week. And the debt balance I focus on isn't the total figure. I ignore the people that we owe money to, and I just look at the figure of the people that owe us money. So for example, if somebody pays just once a month, there's normally about 2 weeks that they owe us and 2 weeks that we owe them. So I always look just purely at the people who owe us money. And I think the thing is, chase the parents before it becomes a problem, because they're a lot more transient in a nursery or in a club than they are in a school. So if they incur a debt that they really think that they can't cover, they leave. They'll find auntie to help, or they'll move to another provider. So we tend to say that if somebody starts to accumulate a little bit of a debt, we keep them on site. We start up a parent payment plan where we say the debt gets no worse. Today you pay for this week's fees and a small amount off your debt. And even if it takes a year to chip off your balance, at least they're in, you've still got them, and you're getting that income in. I would only suspend really as a last option, as I say, because they will just leave. One thing we've done, especially now we're a charity, we've got an internet-based system where we accept credit cards, where parents can pay online, and that's another good way of helping parents clear the debt, at least the debt from you. The debt goes somewhere else, I suppose, with a credit card. And set up your formal letters to make sure that they are appropriate, that if ever you have to go and chase that debt formally, then the court can see that you've followed all the correct procedures. So again, while you're getting your legal advice on your contracts, just get the solicitor to run their eye over your letters and make sure that you're being fair. For example, you can charge a reasonable admin fee when you're getting towards the end, plus interest of about 8%, I think the court deems as reasonable. So you can start putting that into your letters as well. You can also, amongst yourselves, set up cluster agreements. And if you put a cleverly worded paragraph within your parent policies, where you can share administrative details with each other, it means you'll be entitled to warn your fellow nurseries in the area of any bad debtors that seems to be moving around the area. So again, you know, you can keep your solicitor quite busy.
Thank you very much, Sarah. My name is Jasmin Sanders. I'm an early years and childcare area manager for St Bede Childcare, and I work across the primary academy and the private nursery, as well as the school nursery, all situated on the same site. I'm just going to probably pick out quite a few bits that Sarah's been talking about, but in relation to the Department for Education 2-year-old project that we've been lucky enough to work on in the last few months. It's been quite an interesting project. The demonstration project by the DFE has proved to be quite well, very interesting really. We've created networks that weren't there before between schools and PVIs, and they've begun to grow into something a lot more sustainable in recent months. The underpinning idea essentially with the project was to identify challenges and lessons learned by setting up and delivering provision for 2-year-olds in schools. At St Bede we've always taken 2-year-olds in the PVI for 12 years. So we have a lot of experience, whereas on the school side of things they didn't. So that was the start of it for us really, and a lot of other schools in Bolton. In the PVI, practitioners extended their practice to work across both settings in the school nursery and the private nursery, working with 3- and 4-year-olds, as many of you, may well have done, sharing children with the nursery education grant. Some children may take up some of their hours in a school setting and then the rest in a private nursery setting. And we've done that for years. So it's just a case of extending that to work with 2-year-olds as well, incorporating the school side of things. Our model of delivery was to share expertise across the settings, based on the same site initially. I'll come to how we've extended that throughout our local area shortly as well. The teaching staff from the school and the private nursery practitioners learning from each other. We've seen the role of the Senko, communication champion. I think in different areas it's called other things as well. They've grown massively over the last few months. The setting itself has grown from a 90-place to a 106-place nursery. And just talking about what Sarah mentioned before about grants from the local authority, that's how we've expanded our 2-year-old provision by grants from the local authority. That's all up and running now, and with children in it. So we've got a waiting list. Children starting booked to start after Easter as well. So it's positive and it works. What we're doing works. Our nursery school staff and the PVI staff spend time in each other's setting. They share and develop practice with each other, and it's about breaking down those barriers between those staff as well, those teachers and MVQ level practitioners, and they've got a common purpose. They've got something that they're doing the same, or they want to do the same to the best standard they can for our children. So it makes sense for them to work together and to work across their settings. They share continuous professional development, their best practice, their experiences and their knowledge, gaining the best of both and working to narrow that gap, not only in attainment and outcomes for children and families, but professionally as well for our practitioners across both sites. One of the key things that we've realised, not that we've learned because I think it's always been there, but we've come to realise more, is how important it is to acknowledge the experience of our PVI practitioners. I'm sure you'll all have some sort of experience with this and school settings as well. And to draw out what is needed from this, especially in care practices, going back to things like changing a nappy, toileting procedures, all that sort of thing. Private practitioners have years of experience doing with 2-year-olds, not necessarily in a school. Teachers won't have been expected to do that before in previous years, and now this demonstration project has shown us that they do need to do that. They need to know how to do it, and what better way than somebody who's been doing it for years. Because it is different in a school, in a school versus a nursery. It is different, but the theme is the same. The outcomes are the same. Planning environments for 2-year-olds as well is quite a bit more specialised than 3- and 4-year-olds, and it's that realisation as well that nursery practitioners can help schools realise and give them their experience and show them what they've done with their own 2-year-olds. you know, come and see us, come and visit us, come and see what happens in our 2-year-old provision. You know, yes, they do have access to the bathroom because, you know, they are coming up to 3 years old, and that's what they've learned while they've been here. We can show you how to do that in a school, and that's what it should be. There shouldn't be this divide between school and private provision, and that's what we've always aimed to break down. It's a respect of knowledge from both sides of it, to bring that together, to combine it with teaching practice on both sides, and the acceptance that yes, 2-year-olds do have different needs, and at the end of the day, you know, that's what we need to work together to make sure that we all understand what those different needs are. With the Common Inspection Framework as well coming up in September, and all provisions will be inspected off the same framework, so there won't be a different judgment for a 2-year-old that attends here at private nursery and a 2-year-old that attends at a school nursery. It's particularly important for these settings to start working together. Early years is increasingly becoming more specialised. For example, the change from early years professional to early years teacher. You can see the trend where it's seeming like early years needs to be seen more of a teaching profession, as well as with those care practices. So that's increasingly changing. And as Sarah said, sustainability has also been a major factor in setting up and maintaining 2-year-old provision in schools, particularly in terms of staffing levels, ratios, that homegrown quality practitioner, qualifications, and the structure of your staff as well. Employing especially early years staff helps with sustainability very early on. So schools, I suppose, may feel they need a teaching team to deliver their 2-year-old provision. We know you don't. You can be led by a qualified teacher, you can be led by an early years teacher or an early years professional, but the structure of your team on a 1-to-4 ratio, you would find it impossible to sustain with a fully qualified teaching team. So you've a modern apprentice, you've got a level 2, you've got a level 3, and they're led by an early years teacher or professional, and there you go, you've got a sustainable team. And you know, that sustainable team of what, 4 members of staff, you can have 16 children with those 4 members of staff and be sustainable within a school setting.
I'm all about children. They're all about money and organisation and things like that. To me, it's the children that matter and the families that those children are in. And I want the best for every single one of those. And I'm really passionate about getting that. So I drive the system to get the result for the children. And I don't take no for an answer. So if there's some way, you know, that we can do it, we'll find a way of doing it. And that matters to me. When we sit in your position, private and voluntary providers going out to schools, I sometimes take a deep breath when I'm talking to head teachers and steel myself, because they live very much in a different world sometimes, it seems to me. But I think there's hope. I think you can get inside that sort of cosseted world of academia and education. And that's one of the messages I want to leave you with this morning. They need you, because as Sarah and other people have said, you are the experts. You are the experts in childcare. They might have letters after their name in terms of the educational facilities that they have, but it's really a real importance that it's all built on really good, sound childcare and childcare practice. And that is what our organisation is really about. When I look at a child now, I look where we started with that child. And more increasingly, as the years go by, we're meeting those children under 1 year of age. And you can map that child's progress all the way through school, right through university education. There's lots of research papers out there that tell you the sooner a child engages with that process, the better they're going to succeed in their adult life. So that makes it terribly important, the work that you're doing along with schools. There are lots of things that you've got that schools want. And there are lots of things that schools have that you want. And that's where I think partnership is so important, because you both sides get to have what they want, really. So schools want people who can deal with those difficult children when they're in difficult situations where they need a lot more care than other children need. You're experts in giving that one-on-one care right from the word go. And to go and talk to schools and to show schools that you know about those children and the difficulties they're facing, perhaps in their home life, perhaps through some special needs issue. If you can show them that, then they'll soon want you on board. And what you want is some of that rich educational experience being able to come through to your setting. So I would encourage you really to work together with your schools, and just be like our organisation, don't take no for an answer, right? Go in there and keep going in there. Offer them things. They'll offer you things. It's a two-way street. It's very much that kind of partnership. What about doing, a crash or something like that when they're having their parent evening? I'm probably telling you things that you already do, but innovative, out-of-the-box things that you can think of doing really will bring that partnership to a richer level. If you've got a facility like we have in school, we have a sensory room, and we encourage other people to come in and use that sensory room. Many schools don't have those facilities. They don't have the richness of outdoor play that PVI settings can very often have. Once again, share those things. There's only benefit can come out of it. So I want you to have started on a semi-formal process of recording what you've been doing and how they've been behaving in your settings. If you come to me with that, brother, you're on my side to start with. That's helped me a great deal. But it's not just helping me, it's helping that child get what they need from the system. So it's so important to have those informal things started. It's not your formal assessment. Probably the child at that age is too young to start a formal assessment. But the informal assessment that goes before that is very, very important. So it's all about the child, it's all about the families. It's all about finding your place in their families. Sharing is so important for the future of the children. I think that's got to be my big message, and one I'd want to leave you hopefully resounding around your head. That what can we do? How can we approach the local school? How can we get inside there? How can we help them and support them with the job that they've got to do? Because it's an uphill struggle in education, as you'll know, and we do need help to do the best.
I've got a slightly briefer role to play this morning, really just to give you an overview of perhaps more from PVI end in terms of how we have actually engaged with school and one of the models that we work with. To give you a little bit of background information to start with, I'm here to talk to you about our nursery that is based at Barrow Primary School, an outstanding school, and delighted to say most recently an outstanding early years provision as well. I'm Andrew Clifford. I'm MD of the First Class Childcare Group. Now, we're still family owned and run. We're a group of children's day nurseries. We've been going since 1984, and we're a group of 9 settings across Lancashire and Yorkshire. Combination of freehold settings, leasehold, and the school-based setting, operating full daycare, sessional, out of school, and more recently our 2 forest school sites and some other event services. So our partnership with Barrow School was established in 2009. Back then we had a fall in school role, and subsequently they've had 2 outstanding inspections alongside our inspection. We're a semi-rural location just outside Clitheroe, so pretty much a kind of village school feel, 150 children, and they are extending the school and still working towards single form entry, and for 13, 14 and having seen the figures for 15 now oversubscribed, predominantly because of major house building that's going on, and also because of the quality and the reputation of the school in the last 3-4 years. So how it works for us, where this came from, our partnership with the school was originally tendered from the Extended Services Programme, and we work with the school. We talked a little bit about agreements and things earlier, under a protocol agreement. So we work under the protocol agreement, which effectively is an in-depth memorandum of understanding agreement, and that covers, you know, probably the obvious things that you would talk about in terms of meeting the EYFS, Every Child Matters, partnership principles with the school, maintaining a good or better Ofsted grading, our information sharing and the professional conduct that's expected between our organisation and the school. We also sit on one of the subcommittees with the governors, which I think is really important, as we have that part of being within the school, and we provide a termly report to the school in terms of sustainability, quality, and what we call compliments and concerns. Alongside that, we also have a licensing agreement with the school through the local authority in terms of the rental of the building that is on the school site. Now, when we were originally approached, and I'm not going to come on to this, this was initially for a 12-month period, and we looked at it as something with the school to say, we know what we're going to put into this, we know what we're going to give, and we're going to develop. We need to look at this in a better way, because clearly 12-month contract with not really any commitment beyond that doesn't stack up in terms of us putting our life, heart and soul into developing what was needed on the site. So after the first 2 years, and given the extent of our commitment, that's been now done on a 3-year basis, and that's done on a rolling basis. It's a fully inclusive rent, so we were very simple, which is great with the authority, because the school effectively charge us one bill, so we don't deal with other utilities. Obviously we pick up broadband and phone and things like that, but in terms of the actual utilities on the site, it's all done through premises services, and obviously being on school site, low if not minimal from a business rate point of view. We're a standalone registration. So from our point of view, it's 2 ways. For us, it gives us that opportunity to retain control of what our policies, practices and things like that, given that we're operating across 9 other settings. Very difficult for us to have those structures and our senior support structures operating in a different way just for one setting. And actually, you also have to remember, and Jack's touched this on a lot, this is what some of the schools are wanting. You know, they actually want that expertise, they want that, you know, they want that input. So I think sometimes it's recognising what you've got and being really kind of proud and strong of that, and a little bit like Jack said, you know, don't take no for an answer. It's like, you know, if we're going to do this, this is the basis that we think is right. And actually, if that's not right for the school, well, maybe that's not what you should be doing, because actually the other side of it is also in terms of partnership and reputational risk. That works both ways for the school and also for us. You know, so put your head on it the other way around. What if something really bad happens within the school? That's your name attached to that school as well. So it does, you know, and it works both ways. So you can see where the concerns from the school coming in, you know, they want to get under your skin as well. And it comes down to relationships and that clarity of information sharing. And finally, now, there's 2 ways of looking at this in terms of being financially independent. Depends how that bit of what you do sits within any wider structure. For us, it's absolutely vital because we have a lot of cross-links of things. We go back to provision of our area managers and structures and things like that. So we don't blur the edges with the school from a financial point of view. We've jointly applied for grants and training and things like that, but in terms of actually what sits within our limited company, there's no blurring of the boundaries from that point of view. So what do we deliver? At the school we provide full day care, sessional day care. We're there 51 weeks. It's birth to 5. We do also provide some term time preschool provision, which has obviously now been extended through the 2-year-old offer, although in this particular setting it's quite a low take-up, but that is because of the demographic of the area, not because we're not promoting it and offering it. Before school, breakfast club, after school club, we're now running between sort of 30 and 40 children, which if you think of a proportion of the school, is quite a significant proportion of the school, and a very popular holiday club, and all of those extended provisions are run from reception right up through to year 6. In terms of what the success factors and to help make this partnership successful, I think right at the top has to be, and this has got to be about whether you're working with a school, what you're doing in your own setting, at the end of the day it's got to be about quality of provision, and I think that's the one thing that I absolutely share with Jack. You know, it has to be about the children, it has to be about high quality, and I'm not going to stand here and say go and do this with a school, go and do this for yourself. If you're not striving for a minimum of good, and even if you're good, pushing to be outstanding, I wouldn't encourage you to go and work with a school. Because it has to be about the quality of what we do. Obviously, premises huge. Now that's going to vary from setting to setting, site to site. Some schools are looking to outsource things, so actually it's places within your own setting. Some of you will be fortunate that you might be 200 yards down the road from a school and you can walk back from school to your setting. Some of you might not be within touching distance of a school. Some schools have the opportunity for you to use space on site. Obviously we've been quite fortunate at Barrow, whereas that was done out of the extended services programme, so we had that. Now that building has actually been extended since we moved into it, which was funded through the school because the setting went from 40 places up to 60 places off the back of that, because the setting was full. The shared values and the mutual respect kind of go hand in hand for me, in the sense of we've talked a little bit about the individual specialist knowledge, and particularly for the under 3s. But for us at Barrow, it's very much about being part of the school and part of the school family, understanding what the school is trying to achieve. And I say it's not about being separate. In lots of ways we are separate, kind of legally, technically, all of that. But actually, we're just part of the school. And actually we think that we bring an awful lot to the mix from that point of view. Clearly, in terms of communication, those of you that haven't worked with a school before, simple things like understanding what you can and can't do on a school site, and there are some real clear differences at times. Also dealing with minor complaints and concerns as well. We often have had the situation where a parent might not come and talk to us, but they'll go and talk to the head. And actually, it might be about something or nothing. But actually, it's having that open dialogue that we have a fantastic head at the school. The first thing she'll do is go, "Thank you, Mrs. Smith. I'll come back to you." And the first thing Christine does, she comes straight across to nursery and speaks to our staff and go, "Let's have a chat." And just find out what's happened. And it's about not hiding things and not trying to blow things out of proportion. And you'll know that from a setting point of view with the parents. It's like nip it in the bud straight away, because something that might only just be, and actually what's a concern to one parent can actually be like a major crisis to another parent, can't it? As far as some tips for effective partnership, I think most of these really speak for themselves. The regular meetings and information sharing, it's about no surprises. And if there's been issues, be honest. They haven't made a perfect setting yet. They haven't made a perfect school yet. We all get things wrong on a week. Things go wrong. It's called life. And we have to, just be honest and share and deal with things in the best way that we can. We've touched on accessing funding and things that come through different channels. The shared communications. Brilliant thing about a school is school bags. It's dead easy. We get messages out to our parents. Our after school club is fantastic because we can get that information out. So when we're running holiday club, we don't have to advertise. We just put our flyer in every single school child's bag or attached to the school newsletter, and bang, there it's gone to 300 parents like that. We'd kill for that in nursery, wouldn't we? Yeah. Okay, so again, that joint approach, new parents, open events, you know, both in terms of open events. Most schools tend to do a new intake evening, so it'll probably May, June time once everything's been known and out to parents. Yeah, absolutely, we have a stand there. We're part of that. We're very much part of the school family and sharing from that. I think with regards to training, obviously there's been a lot going on at the moment. A lot of recent discussions between obviously the move from the EYFS profile and all the new baseline assessments and a lot of that process going on. So we've been liaising with the school in terms of what route they're going down, and we've been able to bring some of that back into some of our other settings as well. Access to resources. I know Jack touched on use of a sensory room, but simple things like being able to use the school hall. You know, it's fantastic. It's just space, isn't it? You know, we don't have a big school indoor gym space within most of our settings. Things like outdoors, whether that is grounds or some of the schools have this lovely phrase that I got taught last week called a mugger. Those of you know what a mugger is, multi-use games area. A mugger. The head told me last week we're going to get a mugger, and I was surprised about that one. IT suite, things like that, and simple things like the library. Our children love, all our preschool children go over to the library for an hour once a week for a session. It's just an extending it in a different way. So moving on to benefits, continuation with parents and children. Obviously the year-round provision. If that's where you're looking at, the ease of access, the family feel is a big one for me. I think early years provision is a way. Certainly, our school have been very honest that they've learnt with us in terms of how we kind of still be professional, but personally professional as well, and just it's a little bit softer and bringing it down. And I think that comes back from our dealing with parents with children from a very, very young age. Obviously, the continuity of care. We've touched on the use of facilities, but particularly in terms of the enhancements to your provision as well. So, linking just finally, what's been the ongoing positive impact for us? Clearly, quality of provision and learning. Some of the things that we can access through school, and it is both ways. But the biggest one that I just wanted to talk on is transition, and this is something whether you're on site, you're off site, etc. I listen to Jack. I would love all our head teachers that we talk to be like you. It'd be wonderful. But that's what we've got to aim for, and it works both ways. I know there'll be some of you sat here going, I've spoken to all the schools that my children go to, and do you know what? I got 2 out of 8 teachers come in, and I do transition reports, and I do this, and do the get read, and etc. But do you know what? It doesn't mean that we shouldn't do them. We've got to keep pushing. We do our job. The schools that are doing a great job's fantastic. All we can do, whether it's schools that aren't meeting what we feel their part of the bargain, is just keep pushing, because actually it's about the children. At the end of the day. So under transition, obviously for the children at Barrow that are moving to Barrow School, which is usually about half of our preschool leavers, obviously the familiarity, that continued well-being with some of the teaching staff, the information sharing that they are literally coming across the yard and doing some observations in that final summer term on the children that are going to be going to school. And in that final term, they also go and visit reception class as well. But they go as a group, they go in as from nursery and things like that. And obviously that consistency. But for children moving to any school, the concept of school, school is not nursery, is it? It's very different in lots of ways. And you will know some of your children that absolutely fly out the door and they're at school a week and it's like they never knew what nursery was. But we also know that there's children that is a huge challenge for, particularly some of our summer-born children. And one of the things that we talk about, a really simple thing that we have at Barrow, and I know there's been some challenges around the extension with free school meals and things like that, but our preschool children at Barrow go to school for lunch. And it's the most it's probably the best bit for the children in terms of their school transition, because actually they're already used to it and they're already part of school. And actually that's a huge big step to actually going from, yes, we do self-service and things like that and all of that, but actually going from the point of, at 4 years old, I've got to take a tray up to a hatch and somebody's going to give me my lunch and I've got to tell them what I want. So actually, you know, simple things like that, there's so many opportunities. So it's about bringing it back to what's relevant and the age for the child. And the final point I wanted just to finish on, and I'm really glad you guys have already touched on this, is actually the big thing that's come out for me in my own kind of passion for child development, and particularly for our youngest children, is actually the value and the understanding of early years. I think we've learned a lot about schools, but I also know how much our school has learned about early years and the importance of what we're doing. You must have been on the moon in the last couple of years not to realise how much has come out about the importance of, and where the whole agenda's going and where all the funding's being pushed and everything else. You know, I do have a little concern that where are we going to go when we get to naught? Because there's not really much further we can go, but at the end of the day there is so much focus on the early years at the moment, and we've really got to push for what's best for the children. I know a school partnership in some way, however that may be, might be completely alien to you at the moment. You might see it as a threat, you might see it as something you don't understand, or etc. But you know what, all I do is encourage you to go and have some initial conversations, because it's something I'd rather know about than not know about. Okay, and actually I've only talked about one way really, in the sense of our experience of being based on a school site, full daycare provision. But there are lots of different models, lots of different ways, and actually I know from people I've spoken to, the schools and the heads are crying out for that input and that expertise. And actually, yeah, it might be something a bit different to what you've always done or what you do now, but actually the children aren't any different. And actually what we're trying to provide for those children aren't any different. So I'd really encourage you, go and talk to your schools. Okay.